I will start by reading page 210. The man she was going to marry at the end of the summer was in officer's training school. He didn't have any money either, but she was in love with the guy, and he was in love with her. She'd seen something in the paper, help wanted, reading to blind man, and a telephone number. She phoned and went over, was hired on the spot. She would work with this blind man all summer. She read the stuff to him, case studies, reports, that sort of thing. She helped him organize his little office in the country's social service department. They had become good friends, my wife and the blind man. How do I know these things? She told me. And she told me something else. On her last day in the office, the blind man asked if he could touch her face. She agreed to this. She told me he touched his fingers to every part of her face, her nose, even her neck. She never forgot it. She even tried to write a poem about it. She was always trying to write a poem. She wrote a poem or two every year, usually after something really important had happened to her. When we first started going out together, she showed me the poem. In the poem, she recalled his fingers and the way they had moved around over her face. In the poem, she talked about what she had felt at the time, about what went through her mind, and the blind man touched her nose and lips. I can remember I didn't think much of the poem. Of course, I didn't tell her that. Maybe I just don't understand poetry. I admit it's not the first thing I reach for when I pick up something to read. Now I'll talk about the characters in the story. The three main characters was the blind man, which name was Robert, and the narrator. He was unnamed, and the narrator's wife. She was unnamed too. The blind man, he was Robert. He visits the narrator and his wife after his own wife, Bowler, dies. He is a caring, easygoing man who sets even the narrator at ease. He encourages the narrator to draw a cathedral when the narrator is unable to describe one in words. The narrator. The narrator is a first-person narrator. He's unnamed and he describes his experience with Robert. The narrator is jealous of the man from his wife's past and doesn't want Robert to visit. Carver uses a first-person narrator to tell the story of the cathedral to emphasize the bewildering aspects of the transcendent moment that he relates in the story. The writer's wife, she was unnamed too. She had a strong relationship with the blind man. The wife was kept in touch with Robert since they met 10 years ago. They exchanged audio tapes with him and telling him everything about her life. Before she married the narrator, she had been married to a military officer and was so unhappy that she tried to kill herself. The story, the thing Carver is trying to tell us is that the narrator, he could see his eyesight was fine, but the blind man, he couldn't see anything. But still, the blind man, he saw something in people that the narrator didn't see. Um, the narrator, he was so jealous that he didn't think of what was best for his wife, and what was best for his wife was to meet the blind man again. because the wife felt more comfortable with the blind man than she did with the narrator. That was his problem. The narrator, he was too jealous.